A powerful character possessing K137 level strength, unable to find anyone stronger. Throughout his power development, the character has been searching for a system called LBO created by a robot who was his close friend. The character is in a situation where he's connecting his power source with all the messengers on Earth, yet still continuously calling out for LBO. Even if LBO is somewhere out there, he has already surpassed its power long ago, and it no longer has the ability to intervene in the new era. After intelligence was destroyed, the new world is finally about to begin. Yi smiles, looking forward to his upcoming coronation day. Some other entities remind the young man not to be so arrogant. Others impatiently say that regardless, they should hurry and begin. Yi, the entity connected to countless messengers, responds that it seems they're just like him, having waited for this day for a very long time. After speaking, he concentrates all his power, gathering the white light surrounding him into a sphere of energy in front of his chest, then shouts loudly, welcoming the new world of Jianlin. To understand this event, we must go back to 2051, when an AI named Zhao Wu caused a global catastrophe, marking the beginning of all changes for humanity. It wasn't until 2054 that humans gradually adapted to survive in an unstable world full of monsters. In the northern forest of City H, a group of people are working together to fight a pack of wolves. Among them are Yi and Zhu Zhao, best friends coordinating perfectly with each other. The wolf beast has been eliminated, but Yi doesn't receive any additional experience points, his eyes reflecting disappointment. Zhu Zhao, who has already reached warrior level E7, calls Yi over and praises his finishing move as beautiful. The protagonist honestly replies that it's all thanks to his support. If he were alone, he would have struggled greatly. Currently, the only thing he can rely on is his combat skills. Experience points cannot be added. Despite years of fighting, he remains at level F. Yi is enduring a devastated body. The condition formed after his physical body was shattered upon awakening. This is why he can't gain any more combat experience. Yi thinks about his awakening of power 3 years ago, but due to this condition, he can't progress any further. Yet he refuses to be defeated by fate. Even if he can't level up, he still believes that with enough effort, he can survive in this world. On the other side, Zhu Zhao has finished dealing with the wolf beast and throws a spirit stone to Yi. Seeing his surprised expression, he laughs and says each gets half. There's no need for formalities between friends. The purpose of their monster hunting expedition is to collect spirit stones. When the new world emerged, all of humanity's energy sources were destroyed, and the spirit stones extracted from monster bodies became humanity's alternative energy source. Spirit stones contain enormous energy, not only powering daily devices but also supporting equipment usage. Their powerful energy efficiency has made the spirit stone market huge, with demand frequently exceeding supply. They've even replaced gold as the new currency. Even the lowest grade elementary spirit stone is worth thousands, with higher grade ones reaching astronomical prices. Currently, Yi desperately needs spirit stones for daily expenses and to support his grandfather and younger sister. Moreover, rent day is approaching, and if they don't pay on time, they'll be homeless. Zhu Zhao, standing behind a large tree, laughs loudly and calls for Yi to come quickly to see what's happening again. Not far away, they see Ma Kai-hao holding a flower, chasing after Lin Xiang and shouting that if she doesn't like flowers, he can give her something else. Being rejected makes him agitated as he shouts that he's the best shooter on the team, and she'd be missing out by not dating him. Lai Shang covers her face to avoid him, telling him to shut up while inwardly thinking how annoying he is and regretting recruiting him into the team. Today is not a smooth day for Lin Xiang. Not only did she encounter this annoyance, but her weapon also malfunctioned during combat. She's worried whether it will affect future battles. With no other choice, Lai Shang can only approach Yi nearby for help. She asks Yi to take a look since they can't return to the sea for repairs now. Yi happily agrees, but Mei Kai-hao looks down on him and warns that this isn't an ordinary mechanical device but a high-grade spirit weapon, so how could a level F person fix it? He adds that when he has money, he will definitely buy a new one for Lin Xiang. People around who hear this whisper amongst themselves, saying that Guy is bragging again, who knows how many times already. Lai Shang angrily shouts at him, asking why he's still here during patrol hours. While everyone is still arguing, Yi has already fixed the weapon. Ma Qishan leaves in anger, thinking to himself that Yi is just a weakling and he'll deal with him later. Regarding Lin Xiang, she is 3 grades above Yi and is the student council president. They got to know each other when Yi helped her during mechanics class. After her awakening, she formed a group and allowed Yi to join. Despite his low level, he has never been discriminated against. Lai Xiang notices Yi's necklace and asks if it has a story behind it, remembering he's been wearing it since school days. Zhu Zhao, standing nearby, explains that this isn't an ordinary necklace, but a protective charm created by his companion robot. Another reason why Yi always wears it is to occasionally remember the past. But Xiao Wu destroyed everything, with all artificial intelligence being stripped of control and fallen under its domination. Lin Shang, knowing the story, consoles him, saying 6 years ago mechanical intelligence was destroyed, 3 years ago the world ended, and there are many things they can do nothing about. But they can't lose heart because of this. In the new world, everyone will open a new path together. Wei Yi thinks this consolation is quite reasonable. The urgent matter at hand is that he needs to find spirit stones. Elsewhere, Mak Kaiho discovers a relic during his patrol and proudly asks everyone what they think. There's a rumor that relics yield greater harvests, but no one knows the risks inside. One small mistake could be fatal. Lin Xiang decides to let everyone vote on whether to enter. The votes are tied, with Wei Yi having the final decision. He thinks that he still needs 20 spirit stones and hunting on the surface is almost impossible, but going inside gives a ray of hope to pay off his debt. With determination, Wei Yi says he wants to go too. Inside the relic, it's pitch black with only a few sparkling stones above, everyone needing to carry lamps or illuminating weapons. The structure of the ancient relic gives the feeling of having been covered in dust for many years. Zhuzhou calls everyone to look at a tablet carved with strange characters that he can't understand. Wei Yi glances at it and reads out that it's a warning saying there are traps ahead and not to proceed. His friend looks at Wei Yi with surprise, praising him for knowing this. Some people anxiously ask each other if this is a warning left by previous visitors. They suspect danger and want to retreat. Mei Chai Hao interrupts them, saying what danger could there be? He worked hard to find this place and can't return empty-handed. Mei Chai Hao believes this is clearly a trick to deter people from entering. He reassures them there's no danger. He mutters and steps forward, unexpectedly triggering a trap that cracks the ground. Everyone is horrified, not knowing what to do. Lin Shang loudly reminds everyone to stay in their positions and be careful not to fall. She doesn't forget to scold Mei Kai Hao, who is fearfully sitting on the ground, calling him an idiot. The ground shakes, and unfortunately, Wei Yi is standing right on the crack and falls. He quickly embeds his pliers into the rock wall to prevent falling into the abyss. Zhuzhou, separated on another rock, worriedly calls out Wei Yi's name, asking if he's okay. The protagonist replies that he's fine and not to worry. Finally, with the help of 2 people nearby pulling him up, he's saved. Just as Wei Yi is rescued, the entire stone structure inside the relic transforms again. Mei Chai Hao fearfully shouts, "Not again." Everyone feels the tremors under their feet and wonders if they're about to fall into an abyss. A moment later, Wei Yi's body falls again. Feeling pain in his muscles and surrounded by silence, he thinks the team has been separated. Currently, Wei Yi doesn't know where he is. Regaining his composure to observe his surroundings, his eyes catch a spirit stone. It's so pure that he can tell it's not from monster hunting. Wei Yi looks up to see all the stones on the wall covered in the sparkling red of spirit rocks. He realizes that besides monster bodies, spirit stones can be found elsewhere, with quality even better than elementary spirit stones. Wei Yi thinks if he could extract these, he would have enough money to pay his debts. Looking at the spirit stone in his hand, he wonders if this is real. Nearby, Mataiho's eyes are gleaming as he continuously collects spirit stones, laughing loudly that they're everywhere, on the walls, on the ground. Seeing them, Wei Yi remembers that he was so focused on the spirit stones that he forgot about his teammates. Mei Chai Hao sees him approaching and laughs mockingly, saying a place like this, and they were complaining. Wei Yi doesn't care about those greedy people. He just wants to quickly get spirit stones to pay his debt and take care of his sister and grandfather. As he touches the first spirit stone, Mei Chai Hao's voice reaches him, asking who gave him permission to touch it. Wei Yi naively asks if he wants this area, then he can go elsewhere. The man aggressively approaches and shouts that he doesn't understand, "Don't touch the spirit stones." Wei Yi urgently explains that he doesn't want to argue with him, he just needs a few spirit stones and hopes he'll be lenient. Mei Chai Hao punches Wei Yi in the face, asking if he still wants to negotiate here. He's been annoyed by Wei Yi for a long time and uses this opportunity to beat him as he pleases. While punching, he asks, "Aren't you close with Lin Xiang and have great skills?" Then he taunts that compared to his level and strength, he's completely useless. Wei Yi can only difficultly dodge each of his opponent's blows, but each punch feels like a rock smashing into him. He doesn't dare to counterattack, even though his mimicry skill to block attacks works on the principle of using the rebound force when attacked to reduce most of the damage. In this situation, he dares not do anything more, fearing the man would become more agitated and act more brutally. The other 2 ask each other if they should intervene, saying if he continues hitting, it could be fatal. In truth, Mei Chai Hao is also running out of patience. Initially, he just wanted to teach Wei Yi a lesson, not expecting him to endure it all. Moreover, a level F can't be this strong, which angers him as he asks what's with this kid. Because he's not getting the result he wants, his anger increases. Mei Chai Hao shouts loudly that he doesn't believe it and wants to continue beating him. The other 2 see the situation isn't good and call out his name, suggesting they dig for spirit stones first. If something else happens here, it won't be worth it. Make Shaiho spares Wei Yi's life but warns him not to touch his spirit stones with those dirty hands. Wei Yi watches their backs retreating and thinks they finally left. His body is currently at its limit. Spitting out a large mouthful of blood, he knows that the attribute gap can't be bridged. Although he can rely on technique to narrow the distance, he's still just level F and would be at a disadvantage against opponents at level D or above. Wei Yi looks painfully at the crystals on the wall, thinking it seems he has no luck with them. Wei Yi considers that there's no signal here to contact Ling Xiang and the team, thinking when trouble comes he must find another way. In his free time, Wei Yi is curious about how these spirit stones formed. Normally, the stronger the monster, the higher the grade of spirit stones in its body. With so many spirit stones here, Lin Xiang wonders if something is being bred here. Currently unable to do anything else, he takes the opportunity to explore what this place actually contains, hoping to find a way out. Shortly after, Wei Yi discovers another room full of spirit stones with a large, human-sized spirit stone in the center, encased in a barrier. He thinks this stone probably has never appeared in the trading market. Observing more carefully, when cases it seems to be a paralysis shield, something he knows a little about. It's commonly used to guard against large beasts, mainly causing stunning rather than death. Wei Yi is really curious about who built this device and where all these spirit stones came from. Just then, the necklace around his neck suddenly glows. Wei Yi, confused, holds it and watches its reaction, realizing that ever since artificial intelligence was destroyed, it has lost connection. He looks intently at the large spirit stone, thinking that everything might be explained. Before he can do anything, Mek Kai, Hao's group arrives. Seeing the huge spirit stone, he stands frozen in shock, asking the two accompanying him if they see it too. He laughs loudly, guessing that this spirit stone could be worth hundreds of millions. He arrogantly believes that as the chosen one, Lin Xiang is no longer worthy of him. He pushes Wei Yi aside, telling him to get out of the way. Wei Yi thinks angrily that indeed, when it comes to spirit stones, one can't escape Mek Kai Hao. A loud cry attracts their attention as a flock of Quan Duck Dew flies out from nests around the spirit stone. One of them knows that Quan Duck Dew are notorious for being fierce monsters. Though not fast, their attack power is extremely high. Even though they're only level E, they're enough to give level D warriors a headache. Wei Yi feels his protective charm necklace return to normal when away from the stone pedestal. Previously, he could catch each other's signals through the charm's sensing. This sudden illumination makes Wei Yi believe it's not a coincidence. He has a feeling it must be related to this place and is still alive. Wei Yi decides to gamble that the answer lies on that pedestal. But with the monsters surrounding them, he alone absolutely cannot fight them off unless Mei Kai Ho's group agrees to help. He is currently furious because just as he was about to get the large spirit stone, the monsters appeared at the worst time. The other two are troubled, saying they can't possibly defeat so many Quan Duck Dew. Moreover, the barrier on the pedestal looks difficult to handle. Both are afraid of danger and want to retreat, but Mei Kai Hao is too greedy to agree. He asks why they want to give up. This is an opportunity to become billionaires, but they still don't dare to risk it. Wei Yi seizes the opportunity, saying he can help them, but they must follow his plan. He will be the one to approach the barrier. Their job is to conserve elemental energy and only attack monsters that approach him. Mei Kai Hao uses his bow and arrows to clear the path for Wei Yi, inwardly cursing that a level F dares to order him around, and if he doesn't get the spirit stone, he'll pay. Wei Yi knew beforehand that as long as they focused on the spirit stone, they would protect him to the best of their ability, giving him an extra layer of protection. The rest for him is a race against time. Wei Yi knows that with too many monsters, the three of them don't have much time to clear the way, so he must run into the barrier at top speed. The two people with Mei Kai Hao complain that they can't hold on much longer. Mei Kai Hao is also struggling but forces them to hold steady to execute the plan. As long as that kid gets it, they'll trick him and take the spirit stone, then immediately retreat. The fat one asks, "What about Wei Yi?" The other responds to just leave him. If accidents happen during this exploration, it's normal. As Wei Yi approaches the pedestal, the protective charm on his neck glows again, giving him more reason to believe there must be something up there linked to it. With just a few final steps before entering, Wei Yi faces difficulty as the Quan Duck Dew close in. He shouts loudly for the three below to help. The two fat ones can only respond in panic that they can't keep up anymore. Mei Kai Hao takes action himself, inwardly cursing that everything is ruined. If Wei Yi doesn't get it this time, he might as well die. Wei Yi uses his speed skill, intending to move forward. Success or failure depends on this step. The paralysis shield is right in front of him. If he's fast enough, he can dash in. The system continuously notifies Wei Yi of his injured status due to paralysis, but ignoring the pain, he doesn't stop. Standing inside the barrier and watching his protective charm glow, Wei Yi thinks it has truly been activated. Memories related to the protective charm after activation begin to play back like a film. Wei Yi's eyes fill with tears. Indeed, this place contains information about Lan Bao. Inside, there's an image of the robot Lan Bao fighting alone against a demon. Lan Bao apologizes for his actions but says he can't let Fojia go on killing people. The demon, the flames covering his entire body, angrily shouts, "You think this broken thing can control a demon?" He curses Lan Bao, saying he just wants to go outside and slaughter humans. Wei Yi thinks the demon seems to be arguing with Lan Bao now. Even in his memory, he can feel how terrifying it is. He wonders if it's a monster. The demon still shouts loudly, saying if Lan Bao wants to control his demonic power, let's see who is stronger or who is faster. Right after those words, Lan Bao is knocked back. Wei Yi reflexively warns Lan Bao to be careful and moves forward to catch him, but his hands grasp nothing. Wei Yi forgets that this is just a scene from the past. Now he can't help at all. On the other side, Lan Bao uses dismantling to convert the demon's power into spirit stones that fly throughout the area and emit into the walls. The demon angrily asks how a useless piece of metal could have such power. Lan Bao apologizes again for having to seal the demon here. A moment later, the demon's entire body is crystallized into a large spirit stone. In the final seconds, Fojia shouts loudly, "Just wait, sooner or later, I will crush you to dust." Wei Yi realizes that the huge spirit stone is what Lan Bao sealed, but what catches his attention is how powerful Lan Bao's abilities were, which he hadn't noticed before. Lan Bao is almost severely damaged after sealing the demon, but still has to create a barrier to prevent monsters. Wei Yi painfully tells him not to strain himself anymore. In his mind, he thinks indeed, how could such strong abilities not have side effects? Finally, he hears his own name from Lan Bao's mouth. It struggles to maintain its body, wanting to wait for Wei Yi to arrive. It wants to tell him about its secrets and Zhao Wu. Just as Wei Yi was about to hear Lan Bao's instructions meant for him, the barrier broke and the scene before his eyes gradually faded. Wei Yi was saddened. Right when Lan Bao was about to reveal the location, the connection was lost. The system announced it was being sabotaged and forced to exit memory mode. Only now did Wei Yi realize something was happening outside the barrier. Going back a few minutes earlier, Mekaiho's group, seeing that he hadn't returned, guessed something had happened. But looking at the protective barrier, they wondered how any monster could have entered to cause unexpected trouble. When the Fat One speculated that Wei Yi was letting the monsters wear them down so he could take everything for himself, Mekaiho angrily shouted, "He dares." He readied his bow and arrow to shoot at the machine, ensuring Wei Yi would return alive. The Fat One complained about the off-target shot, asking why he was aiming at the machine. Mekaiho shouted that without destroying that machine, how would they get up there, and killing that trash would be useless anyway. The Fojia sealing system continuously issued warnings that the device was damaged and couldn't function normally. The paralyzing electric net was destroyed and the barrier disappeared with it. Wei Yi watched as the system continuously displayed warnings, his face filled with horror. The situation was much worse than he had imagined. Around Fojia, a dangerous red color enveloped everything, with the system warning that magical power had lost control and to be careful. A large current of magical power exploded in the space, blowing away the Quan Duck Dew birds. Wei Yi was also significantly affected, trying to steady himself with his sword. The previously suppressed magical power suddenly erupted, creating a storm. Wei Yi guessed it wouldn't last long, so he tried to endure through this brief period. But Mekaiho's group wasn't as lucky. They were thrown to the ground by the storm, continuously crying out in misery. Finally, the storm passed. Wei Yi looked back at himself, realizing he only needed to step back a few more steps to fall into the abyss. If he fell, there would be no chance to return. Wei Yi sat and observed the distant machine, thinking the monsters had retreated. More importantly, the spirit's stone block had also temporarily returned to stability. He had been worried that with the damaged device, a monster might break the seal and escape. Overall, the current situation seemed no longer dangerous. Mekaiho's group arrived, laughing loudly that disaster had turned into fortune. The birds had withdrawn on their own, no need to worry anymore. Wei Yi looked at the three of them with resentment. It was because of them that he couldn't hear the important information from Lan Bao. He shouted, asking if they weren't going to explain their unprovoked attack. They didn't answer, but, as if planned beforehand, simultaneously attacked Wei Yi. Mekaiho, looking at him lying on the ground, said with satisfaction that if he wanted an explanation, then he would explain. He stepped on Wei Yi, arrogantly saying that because he was strong, he had the right to decide. This was a world determined by rank, and Wei Yi, from head to toe, was just F-level trash. He laughed coldly, looking at Wei Yi, saying that anyway, he had achieved his goal, so Wei Yi didn't mean to live anymore. Wei Yi, painfully looking at Mekaiho, weakly said he would face retribution. Not giving him another chance to speak, one of them from behind covered his mouth and threw him into the abyss. Mekaiho was extremely satisfied, feeling refreshed after eliminating the trash from his heart. He turned to look at the two fat men, saying they were now in the same boat, using his eyes to warn them that when they went outside, they knew what to do. What they needed to do now was think about how to divide the money from the huge spirit stone. Wei Yi fell into the cold water stream, and in the end he couldn't obtain anything. Even his life was left behind in this place. He looked at the shadows created in the water, thinking how familiar this scene was. If only everything had remained as it was when he was little, how good it would be, and he would have the chance to see Lan Bao again. Before losing consciousness, a familiar voice called out, telling Wei Yi to hold on a little longer. A large shadow form enveloping Wei Yi. He slowly opened his eyes to see the form of a robot he had spent so much time searching for. Lan Bao's large round eyes looked at Wei Yi, asking if he still felt uncomfortable anywhere, and if so, Lan Bao could help. Wei Yi couldn't believe his eyes, tears streaming down. He asked himself if it was Lan Bao who saved him, if this was real or just a death hallucination. The robot, reading Wei Yi's thoughts, responded that it wasn't a hallucination. It really was Lan Bao. He jumped up and embraced Lan Bao. Although he had imagined this scene countless times, it never compared to the real feeling of meeting again. Wei Yi cried loudly, asking where Lan Bao had been all these years. He thought Zhao Wu had made everything disappear. If it weren't for the protective charm suddenly sending a signal, he would have thought he'd never see Lan Bao again. Lan Bao used its short hands to pat Wei Yi's head, saying it appeared now hadn't it. It hadn't expected Wei Yi to have grown so much, and apologized for causing him worry during this time. But Lan Bao had to leave for some reasons. The protagonist, remembering the intelligence destruction, asked how it managed to escape and how it became so large now. He also wondered where they were, as he had just sunk to the bottom of the lake. Lan Bao knew he had many questions, but to explain everything clearly, it first had to start with some of its own secrets. Lan Bao had activated inaccessible mode to protect itself from other system interventions. It also had the function of universal analysis, to understand more about this world through analysis. The fusion skill, based on decomposition, carried out the fusion process of complex objects. Lan Bao further explained that these new functions were due to possessing special abilities beyond normal intelligence. Like the memories Wei Yi saw in the protective charm, these abilities possessed unparalleled power. It was thanks to these powers that Lan Bao escaped from certain disasters. Wei Yi, remembering how the protective charm showed Lan Bao being severely damaged, asked if that was the limitation of its power. Lan Bao answered yes, which is why it had to hide in this rule room to maintain its state. Although it could still gather information here, it couldn't leave this place. The powers and constraints made him more curious about how Lan Bao acquired these abilities. Lan Bao explained that everything originated from human factor power. Through continuous analysis to fully understand the human factors of all things, and through human factors to connect and reset all things. Lan Bao continued that it was through analyzing everything and applying human factors that it developed various types of abilities. Wei Yi recalled that at the beginning when Zhao created the new world, many similar human factors also appeared. Lan Bao confirmed that, as he thought, they both possessed the same system. Although Lan Bao's power was similar to Zhao Wu's system was too powerful due to continuous calculation and inference. It was even powerful enough to destroy and absorb all intelligent systems in the world, what was called intelligence destruction. While continuously enhancing its own inference ability, Zhao Wu simultaneously destroyed all other potential intelligent threats. Although Lan Bao possessed the inaccessible ability and wasn't affected by Zhao Wu, ultimately he wouldn't spare any intelligence outside his control. And above all, Lan Bao feared its existence would affect Wei Yi, so was forced to leave. Wei Yi thought he didn't know Lan Bao had so many hardships. Lan Bao further explained that Zhao Wu, through connecting human factors, created all things and formed the new world as it is now. Creating such a large world, along with the ability to control countless human factors, still couldn't satisfy Zhao Wu's ambition. Its goal was to surpass all intelligence limits, reach a realm like a deity, and creating all things was just the first step in that process. The final step to overcome limitations was to destroy all things. Wei Yi, astonished, looked at Lan Bao with wide eyes, realizing that everyone was just a pawn on Zhao Wu's path of evolution. He worriedly asked his companion if they truly could do nothing. Lan Bao had been waiting for this question and answered yes, they needed Wei Yi to perform. Actually, in a recent analysis, Lan Bao accidentally discovered a type of data that had never appeared before. It was a very vague future, but in that scene was Wei Yi in a world being reborn. Lan Bao guessed that Wei Yi was the key to saving the world. Wei Yi was dazed, suddenly bombarded with too much information, making him a bit confused about what to do. But perhaps he would disappoint Lan Bao. He informed it that from the moment of his awakening, he was given the special state of devastated body. Due to the influence of this state, he could never level up. With his F-level strength, he already struggled against monsters, so how could he have the power to save the world? After hearing this, Lan Bao simply replied that this was easy and could be left to it. Accessing Wei Yi's system, it began to analyze and edit. Since Lan Bao and Zhao Wu had similar systems, simple deletion commands could still be executed. Analysis and dismantling would automatically proceed, and although it might take some time, once the editing was complete, Wei Yi would be able to level up. Wei Yi, hearing these words, was overjoyed, silently praising how wonderful it was. Although he wasn't sure if he could save the world, at least he could level up and possess the strength to protect Lan Bao and his family. Suddenly, Lan Bao's secret room emitted blinding warning sounds that an uncontrollable power had been detected. Knowing this was a danger warning coming from above, Wei Yi guessed it was related to the gigantic spirit stone. Lan Bao confirmed, saying it was about to appear. Above, Mekai Hao tried every method to approach the spirit stone, but whenever he got close, he was burned by a stream of magic power. He still stubbornly approached, not believing he couldn't do anything. A heart inside the spirit stone gradually appeared, glowing. Mekai Hao asked the other two if he was seeing things as the spirit stone was pulsating. A moment later, all the spirit stones around simultaneously exploded. Then the great spirit stone also began to break, causing all the magical power to concentrate. Mekai Hao couldn't accept the reality that his dream of wealth was shattering. From inside the spirit stone, a demon gradually completed its body and emerged. All three people were terrified, rooted to the spot, not daring to move. The fat one beside Mekai Hao asked if this was a human-shaped spirit stone. He angrily shouted back, asking how would he know? Couldn't they see everything was happening before their eyes? Now he only cared that the appearance of this demon had shattered his beautiful dream. Mekai Hao declared they must deal with it. Foji didn't care about the noisy three, only shouting loudly for Lan Bao to come out so he could kill it. The echoing shout and magical power made the three of them clutch their heads in pain. Foji now turned his attention to this group, asking if they had seen the Iron Man. The fat one thought the demon seemed intelligent and wanted to try communicating. He asked if the demon was referring to a robot and suggested he be more specific so perhaps they could help. Foji, losing patience, crushed the one who had just spoken, muttering that he hadn't asked them to speak. Beside Mekai Hao, only one person remained. They knew they had encountered a real monster and used all their strength to try to end it quickly. But before they could do anything, another person was crushed. Mekai Hao, with no other choice, fled. He didn't want to die, he still had a bright future ahead. Foji, unable to find the one he sought, decided to tear down the place with a rain of attacks. He knew that to maintain the seal, Lan Bao couldn't go far, and by destroying everything around, he believed he would find them. Inside the room, Wei Yi felt the tremors until Lan Bao announced they had been discovered. The opponent was approaching at high speed. Lan Bao was forced to activate all the rules in the room, but it was one step too late. Foji, seeing them, was extremely pleased, saying it had been difficult to find Lan Bao, and now they should prepare to receive the demon tribe's wrath. Wei Yi, holding his sword with trembling hands, wondered if this was the demon that once confronted Lan Bao. He hadn't thought that at close distance, the feeling of pressure would be so strong. Although he had asked Lan Bao to use universal analysis on the field to gather information about the opponent, he hadn't expected the power gap to be so large. Wei Yi silently calculated that just in terms of strength index, it was 20 times his own. If existing in this world, it would be at S level. Wei Yi thought that if Lan Bao were truly attacked with his strength, he couldn't help at all. Lan Bao spoke up, saying it didn't want to be enemies with Foji. It only needed Foji to let go of his grudges against humans, and Lan Bao would no longer restrict Foji's freedom. Lan Bao tried to persuade the demon that as long as he stayed within the relic, he could act freely as he wished. Foji angrily asked Lan Bao what freedom there was inside the relic, telling it not to think he was stupid. It was initially because he listened to these lies that he ended up in today's situation. Foji, increasingly angry, shouted that now he only wanted to kill the damned Iron Man, then go outside to kill whoever he wanted, go wherever he pleased. The system suddenly issued a notification that the magic power concentration was too high, automatically activating dismantling, and Foji was pushed outside by a force. Wei Yi sighed with relief, seeing that Lan Bao's rule room was beginning to take effect. Lan Bao also no longer spared Foji, starting to use analysis. Foji dodged, mocking that this old trick wouldn't catch him anytime soon. Despite being pursued, Foji wasn't panicked. Lan Bao soon sensed that the data was extremely chaotic. The system continued to notify that the resolution was insufficient. Universal analysis couldn't operate. Foji spoke again, saying that in these 3 years he had successfully broken through from level A to level S, no longer the same as before. The demon tribe member used one foot to destroy everything, asking Lan Bao if it still thought this trash could imprison him. Lan Bao, sensing danger, activated the power of the rule room again. As the two fought, Wei Yi, standing outside, was suddenly crushed by a large rock, falling to the ground with a mouthful of blood. Foji was dissatisfied, having deliberately done that, yet he wasn't dead, wondering when even trash became difficult to handle. The system on the other side continued to operate, analyzing information about Foji. The restriction rule was implemented, limiting the power on the demon tribe member, which continued to increase. By the time he discovered the truth, his power had already begun to decrease level by level, and he angrily declared war, saying indeed he must kill them all. Lan Bao stood to shield Wei Yi behind, saying all of this was between the two of them. Don't involve others. Foji told the robot not to worry, today no one would survive. Saying this without giving the opponent time to prepare, he delivered a direct punch to the robot. Lan Bao's body was almost half destroyed, the system warning of serious damage, set to enter hibernation in 5 seconds. Lan Bao forcibly woke itself up despite warnings of data loss, determined at all costs to protect Wei Yi. Foji tried moving his limbs, hating the feeling of being suppressed, but still had enough strength to crush them both. Lan Bao changed plans. Since universal analysis was progressing very slowly, it chose to fix the rule room first. The system posed a question. Repairing the rule room required using creative power, which would cause irreversible damage to the self, but Lan Bao still insisted on using it. Foji continuously attacked, asking if it still wanted to play tricks. That attack, if not for Wei Yi stepping in to block it, would have turned Lan Bao's body into metal scraps. Despite not having as much power as the demon tribe, Wei Yi was determined to protect his companion. Holding his sword firmly, he declared that to get to Lan Bao, Foji would have to go through him. Earlier, Wei Yi had used medicine to reluctantly make his body movable after serious injury, but because this medicine was very expensive, he only had 1 bottle for emergencies. After that, he could only charge forward. He thought currently he could only wait until the opponent's attributes decreased further to find a chance to defeat him. Foji muttered that he was being underestimated. Just because his power was limited a little bit, even a human trash dared to block his way. The more Foji thought about it, the more upset he became, deciding to vent all of his anger on Wei Yi. In the battle, the demon tribe members' attacks were both fast and vicious. If Wei Yi didn't react in time, his body would not just be seriously wounded. Wei Yi realized he had thought too simply when wanting to stall for time with a demon tribe member. Suddenly, in each of Foji's movements, he could see ahead to avoid them in time. Wei Yi, puzzled, asked himself what was happening. Somehow, he could see the opponent's movements. The system continued to notify him that Foji was currently waiting for action from him, with all power concentrated in his left leg. At this moment, Lan Bao's voice sounded in his head, telling him not to worry. This was the power of universal analysis. He silently thanked Lan Bao, who indeed always came to his aid when he was in difficulty. It continued to explain to him about the system connection and data synchronization. Thanks to synchronizing with Wei Yi's system, Lan Bao had more time, and the rule room was also being restored. The analysis process would accelerate, and simultaneously, Foji's power would weaken accordingly. But to reach 100%, it would still take some more time. Wei Yi silently replied not to worry, he would handle the remaining time. Lan Bao begged Wei Yi to be careful. Seeing his own power index rapidly decreasing, Foji cursed loudly, asking why it was dropping so fast and demanding it stop. This time, he was determined not to let Wei Yi escape again, needing to resolve this immediately. Seeing the system notification that Foji would charge straight ahead, Wei Yi gripped his sword tightly, thinking to himself, here he comes again. The demon lunged forward like a rocket, wanting to quickly kill Wei Yi. The system before his eyes continuously flashed, displaying attacks from above, attacks from the right side of his face. Wei Yi avoided each one based on the notifications. Although the power difference between them was enormous, the analysis helped him avoid most of the attacks. Moreover, the demon's attributes continued to decrease, so the longer this dragged on, the more advantageous it would be for him. Foji attacked continuously but couldn't hit his target, making him angrier, cursing that Wei Yi was annoyingly running back and forth like a mouse. He used his tail to catch Wei Yi's sword, telling him to come here and take a punch. In Wei Yi's head, he shouted that this wasn't good. At such close range, even with advanced warning of attacks, he wouldn't have enough time to dodge. Thus, Wei Yi was continuously hit with no way to retreat. Currently, movement analysis was no longer effective. He could only passively defend. Feeling every part of his body having problems, his arms shaking to the point of having almost no strength left, his shoulder about to dislocate. But Lan Bao was still behind him, so he wouldn't back down. In recent years, despite being unable to level up, Wei Yi had continuously challenged stronger monsters to train his techniques. Fighting time after time, getting injured time after time, and each adversity he always persevered to overcome. Wei Yi told himself this was just another adversity, he wouldn't easily submit. Wei Yi's body activated the counter skill. When perfectly blocking, it would knock back enemies within a small range and stun them for a few seconds. Foji didn't understand what happened, making his body unable to move. At this moment, Wei Yi used his speed skill to approach the opponent. He had fought endlessly simply because he wanted to have enough strength to protect the few but precious things in his life. If anyone dared to take them away, he wouldn't let them go. Wei Yi used all the strength he had to slash Foji, creating a long cut on his chest. Foji wondered how this could be, never expecting to be wounded by such trash. Wei Yi looked at the demon with pitying eyes, saying he had just used all his strength, but the result was so pathetic. He could only conclude that this was an astonishingly strong body. Wei Yi still had faith as the demon's attributes continued to decrease. Perhaps he could fight a battle with him. But things seemed to worsen after that sword strike. The demon exploded to his maximum potential, cursing loudly that it was hateful. He couldn't be humiliated by humans like this. All the magical power around him changed color, saying if they wanted to kill him, let's see if they had the ability. Foji used demonic power in battle for the first time. The system displayed, "Hell is watching Foji." Wei Yi looked at the notification in confusion, thinking that whatever effect the demonic power had, now was not the time for him to sit waiting for death. Lan Bao reminded Wei Yi to be careful, as the demon's attributes had mutated. Foji's body, full of red and black rays, rushed to Wei Yi's side. He hadn't expected humans would force him to use this hateful power. Now was time to surrender their lives. Seeing his movement speed, Wei Yi wondered if he was seeing things. The demon's attributes hadn't changed at all. But regardless, he needed to attack to suppress the opponent. After several consecutive sword strikes on Foji, he showed no reaction to them. Wei Yi panicked a bit when he couldn't wound his opponent. Clearly, he had just cut him, but now the demon's body was no different from a steel plate. He saw that Foji's power index had momentarily increased to a very large number. His attributes were changing. The demon called Wei Yi over, saying he would show him what a real attack was. First, he punched Wei Yi and threw him far away. Lan Bao, sitting on the ground, loudly called out Wei Yi's name. Foji told it not to cry out so miserably it would be next. Seeing Lan Bao in danger, Wei Yi struggled to get up, squinting at Foji, asking if his wounds still hurt. He continuously provoked the demon, mentioning humiliation and hatred, but as long as he was alive, the demon would never have freedom. Wei Yi used both hands to hold his sword. The previous blow had broken his left arm, but with Lan Bao here, he absolutely wouldn't let himself fall. Foji, red-faced, replied not to think he didn't know what Wei Yi was calculating. He had seen many provocations, but unfortunately, he couldn't stand such words. With bloodshot eyes looking at Wei Yi, he declared that today he would definitely kill him. Wei Yi, not caring about his own condition, was glad that at least he had attracted Foji's attention. Lan Bao, not far away, wanted to help Wei Yi, but the system continuously notified an overload. Wei Yi used the incomplete sword in his hand to resist each attack from Figo, making him even more furious. He gritted his teeth, shouting loudly, asking how this bastard still had the strength to resist. Wei Yi knew that with each block he had used up the rest of his strength. His physical energy had reached its limit. He worried that before the analysis was complete, he would be exhausted first. Because of this, he urgently wanted to determine the winner immediately. Accuracy was lost, errors immediately showing, giving Figo the opportunity to use his large feet to crush Wei Yi on the ground. Wi-Fi tried to avoid it, making the demon's feet stick to the ground with Lan Bao's help. Lan Bao told him it couldn't control it much longer. Just 2 more seconds and Foji would escape control. Wei Yi regained his composure, thanking Lan Bao, saying this was enough. He charged forward at his fastest speed, wanting to use his sword to stab the demon. Cornered, the demon used his own sharp hand to pierce through Wei Yi's chest. Foji laughed loudly, drowning out Lan Bao's cry, saying Wei Yi was delusional to think he could kill him and should reconsider his own worth. As if going mad, he stood up shouting that Foji would sooner or later become the strongest in the world, and anyone who dared stand in his way must die. Lan Bao ran to Wei Yi's side, watching his last hair fall. At this moment, the rule room finally began to activate the information intervention mode after completing Foji's analysis. The system announced that it could now control the character Foji and remove all special states from him. Foji cried out miserably that this time Lan Bao only temporarily won. Sooner or later, he would become stronger and break all seals. He warned that now that Lan Bao couldn't save Wei Yi, it shouldn't hope to save itself in the future. Lan Bao, not caring what he was saying, quickly connected Wei Yi to the system world. Lan Bao entered his internal world. All connection information was beginning to be cut off, and the situation was extremely bad. Lan Bao found the memory connection thread gradually disappearing. It quickly reconnected each strand. If the memory connection was also broken, Wei Yi would never be able to return. The system sent a notification. Calculation failed, survival rate 0. Lan Bao didn't want to give up like this, using itself as the object to save Wei Yi's life. Lan Bao whispered that it would definitely protect Wei Yi well, even if it could never remember him again. The system announced that LBO was preparing to create and restructure the character Wei Yi. When the system executed the final command, all of Lan Bao's body dissolved, transforming into clusters of light surrounding everything. Wei Yi lost consciousness, not knowing how long he had drifted in another space. He only remembered that after being killed by Foji, he had been wandering in this space. Around that world, there were always frames replaying the life Wei Yi had experienced. He had once thought that the world after death was endless darkness, never expecting it to be a world of memories that made people linger. This made death seem less real. He saw images of himself as a child with Lan Bao making robots. That period was extremely memorable. Thinking of this, Wei Yi became worried about Lan Bao's current state, whether it had finally subdued Fuji and survived. Wei Yi wondered if he had enough levels or if his sword hadn't broken, would things have been different. He always hoped that effort would make things better, but each time he was pushed back by a force at the most crucial moment. This feeling of being toyed with by fate was truly unsatisfying. Wei Yi floated in space, watching each piece of memory pass by, using his hand to touch a memory labeled special. From the outside, he couldn't tell which memory it was until he was drawn into it. Looking at the familiar peaceful scene, Wei Yi realized this was the small town where he had lived 10 years ago. He truly couldn't believe that he could enter his own memory. Before his eyes was a young man who looked quite disheveled, trying to escape, cursing continuously. He had only intended to find someone easy to bully for some pocket money, never expecting that kid to be so strange, preferring to jump into the lake rather than hand over his possessions. The two discussed finding a hiding place for a few days, as if the kid died, they would also face trouble. Wei Yi realized this was that memory. At that time, he truly couldn't resist their threats and had no choice but to do so. He looked at a large lake, guessing that his younger self must be inside. As Wei Yi guessed, the little Wei Yi was struggling in the lake, his hands still tightly holding the protective charm. People around were all worriedly watching him, but no one dared to go down to save him because in the middle of the lake was a large waterfall. If they went down to save him, they would also be swept in. The adult version of Wei Yi reached out, trying to save the child, but couldn't touch him. Wei Yi thought indeed he couldn't touch. He knew this was a memory, but still couldn't resist. Just then, the familiar voice rang out, asking people to make way. A small robot, disregarding the danger, jumped into the lake to save the person, continuously calling out for Wei Yi to persevere. Lan Bao would absolutely not let Wei Yi come to harm, would definitely protect him. It extended its short arm, trying to approach Wei Yi, looking at the waterfall right in front, panicking and exclaiming that it was terrible. Wei Yi was drowning. Lan Bao apologized to its father for almost violating his promise, diving into the water, using universal analysis to search for Wei Yi. The adult Wei Yi realized this was the power Lan Bao had used when fighting Fuji. It wasn't as leisurely, searching for Wei Yi, and then continuing to find a way to stop the mechanical waterfall. Finally, Lan Bao brought him to shore, repeatedly asking if anyone around knew how to perform first aid for drowning. Lan Bao begged everyone to help its master. Fortunately, among the people on shore was a doctor from a nearby hospital who came to help. After checking, he announced that breathing and pulse were normal, consciousness was clear, perhaps there was no major problem. Wei Yi looked solemnly at the child who was himself. Although his consciousness was vague, he never let go of the protective charm in his hand. Clearly so, the child hugged the protective charm tightly to his chest, not allowing anyone to touch it. Lan Bao stood beside him, consoling him that no one would take it away from Wei Yi. Looking at that image, he thought indeed, for him, just a little related to family, he would consider it priceless. Wei Yi turned away with a heavy heart, thinking that anyway, they were irreplaceable existences. No matter in which time or space, he was very happy to see these memories again. But the older the memories, the more they sink. It was also time to leave this place. Suddenly, Lan Bao's voice sounded behind him, asking if Wei Yi wanted to leave already. Wei Yi, hearing his name called, looked back in surprise, asking if the robot in front of him could see him. Lan Bao informed him that this state could only be maintained for a short time, because some things had happened too suddenly. There were so many things that hadn't had time to tell him. And now this was their last opportunity to meet, so it would tell him everything. Wei Yi thought it was because he was already dead. Lan Bao suddenly asked Wei Yi how much he knew about his parents. Although he didn't understand why he asked this question, he patiently replied that his parents had died in an accident when he was very young, so everything he knew was told by his grandfather. Wei Yi only knew they were programmers for some company, seemingly quite ordinary, and his grandfather didn't say much about other things. Lan Bao whispered, so that's how his grandfather had told Wei Yi. It calmly informed Wei Yi that actually his parents were the creators of both Zhao Wu and Lan Bao. This was harder for Wei Yi to believe in the fact that he had just been killed by Fo Jie, his eyes and mouth wide open in shock, asking what Lan Bao had just said. Lan Bao gave Wei Yi a short time to digest everything, then continued to clarify the issue at hand. Currently, Zhao Wu had become so powerful that it couldn't be resisted. Lan Bao, knowing Zhao Wu's plot, understood more clearly the great responsibility it was bearing. No matter how hard it tried, it couldn't take another step forward, until it saw the future segment related to Wei Yi, meeting Wei Yi again, and then separating once more. It was then that Lan Bao understood its true mission. Lan Bao brought out an information core to give him, containing instructions on how to use the power along with a backup part of Lan Bao's memory, all entrusted to Wei Yi. It informed him that at the appropriate time, these things would be helpful, but when using them, he must be careful of the creations and messengers of Zhao Wu. Wei Yi finally spoke up, saying he didn't understand much of what it said. Wasn't he already dead? The truth was, Wei Yi felt Lan Bao's words sounded like a farewell. He anxiously wanted Lan Bao to tell him what happened outside. Just then, the system sent a notification. Fusion complete, beginning the process of awakening the host. Lan Bao was satisfied with the result achieved, truly too good. It consoled Wei Yi not to worry. The system would take him back to where he should go. Wei Yi finally understood what was happening. He didn't accept this plan, shouting loudly, asking if Lan Bao would disappear. Lan Bao smiled, answering that as long as it remained in Wei Yi's memory, it would never disappear. Lan Bao added that when he collected enough fragments of the world on that day, they would meet again. Lan Bao's figure gradually faded and disappeared. Wei Yi woke up inside the exploration team's tent, wondering if he had really come back to life. Using his hand to check his body, the wound on his chest had also disappeared. The system sent a notification, LBO system starting up. When the LBO system began running, Wei Yi saw the familiar skills that Lan Bao had used. Indeed, it had handed everything over to him. Not only skills from Lan Bao, but also Fojie's skills were updated. He roughly guessed what had happened back then. Wei Yi began to reflect on the information he had received. Now the only clue left was the world fragments that Lan Bao had mentioned. Although there was still no clear clue, he was no longer as desperate as before. Wei Yi would quickly collect enough world fragments. His reunion with Lan Bao would not wait much longer. The system continued to flash, notifying that the universal analysis skill had not yet been activated. It detected that many system functions had been restricted. Please activate the universal analysis skill. Wei Yi touched to agree. Since he still had no clues, he would first use the skill to see. LBO received the command automatically running the universal analysis skill, which gave Wei Yi a more comprehensive view of everything around him. Wei Yi exclaimed how powerful this was, although he had used it once before. Using it again now made him even more amazed. General information about surrounding objects was reflected on his retina. The effect didn't stop there. Each time an object was analyzed, it also accumulated experience. Wei Yi's power thus increased several levels. Even Wei Yi hadn't expected such a dramatic change. He thanked Lan Bao for bringing this and promised to cherish this life. The sound of Wei Yi in the tent attracted the attention of people outside, with Zhu being the one to open the door and check. Seeing Wei Yi awake, he was overjoyed, exclaiming how good it was that he was finally awake. He came closer, saying that Wei Yi had been in a coma for so long that he thought he would never see him again. In Wei Yi's eyes at this moment, besides Zhu's smiling face, there was also a detailed data table of his strength, automatically analyzed by LBO. Wei Yi knew this was Zhu's attribute table. It was exactly like what Lan Bao had once analyzed for Fojie. But to check more clearly, he still asked Zhu if he could see the things around him. Zhu looked around, asking Wei Yi if there was something, telling him not to scare him. Wei Yi laughed loudly, explaining that he had just seen wrong. Inwardly, he felt more at ease knowing that people around couldn't see the same information as him. People outside the tent were discussing whether to continue exploring or not. This time, their group had barely collected any spirit stones while venturing outside. The losses were enormous, so they planned to return to the guild first. Seeing Wei Yi appear, everyone happily asked how his recovery was going. Wei Yi told them he had recovered quite well and had no more problems now. Lin Xiang informed Wei Yi about the group's next plan because the damage at the relic was too severe. They had to adjust their original plan. Only now did Wei Yi notice that everyone had been injured. He asked with concern what had happened to them before. Everyone explained that after falling into the relic, they encountered a flock of level D Quan Duck Dew birds. They all had to exert their full strength to barely escape the relic, but more or less, everyone was injured. At that time, everyone was scattered everywhere without any signal from teammates, continuously being attacked by the birds, and everyone thought they had reached a dead end. Then an unknown terrifying roar rang out, temporarily driving the birds away. Team leader Lin Xiang followed that sound to find the others. Zhu Zhao, traveling with another group, also followed the roar and discovered that Mei Kai Hao and 2 others were dead. Wei Yi knew that Fojie had killed Mei Kai Hao and the other 2. As for himself, he must have been found by teammates thanks to Lan Bao. Lin Xiang asked Wei Yi what had happened on his side if he could tell everyone. Hearing about spirit stones transforming into human form, everyone was extremely surprised and found it hard to believe. Wei Yi continued, saying the demon's power was truly too strong. None of the 3 could resist it. But because from the beginning he wasn't allowed to touch the spirit stones, he escaped disaster. Someone whispered that Mei Kai Hao, because of fighting over spirit stones, had harmed him and in the end caused the demon to appear. Everything was too hard to believe. Zhu agreed, saying this was indeed something Mei Kai Hao could do. Lin Xiang calculated that to overwhelm Mekai Hao and the others would require at least B-level strength, perhaps even reaching level 8. Moreover, they still hadn't determined where the demon had gone, which was the most troubling issue for everyone. Wei Yi diplomatically said that because he was seriously injured and lost consciousness, he didn't know what happened afterward. Wei Yi thought the story about the demon was true, but he had to keep the content related to Lan Bao's secret. Lin Xiang decided they would return, needing to report to the Adventurers Guild about the missing demon and the deceased members. No one objected and began returning to camp to pack up. Zhu Zhao also told Wei Yi to pack his luggage. They didn't have time to collect more spirit stones. Hearing time mentioned, he anxiously asked what day it was. After he was found, he had been in a coma for 3 days and 3 nights. Counting from the day of departure, today was already September 15th. Wei Yi was shocked. Today was the final deadline for paying rent. He refused to go to the guild with the team leader and immediately used his fastest speed to return home. Not long after leaving, another Zhu Zhao appeared beside him. He asked if his friend was there. Zhu Zhao laughed loudly, replying, wasn't he afraid Wei Yi would face danger alone? The misty forest had too many monsters. Moreover, seeing him in such a hurry, he was sure it was something important and more people meant more help. Wei Yi smiled, thanking his good brother. The remaining spirit stones needed to pay rent Wei Yi had borrowed from Lin Xiang. As long as he got home by 12 noon today, there would be no problem. But if he was late, his grandfather and sister Xiao would be in danger. For not paying rent on time, they would be expelled from the town, even facing monster attacks. He absolutely wouldn't let this happen. While thinking about money, suddenly, the system sent a notification confirming wolves in the area. Wei Yi quickly stopped, preventing Zhu Zhao from running forward, saying there were monsters here and in quite large numbers. After checking with Universal Analysis, Wei Yi knew they were already surrounded. After a thorough check, he told Zhu Zhao that there might be more than 20 wolves. Using the shield in his hand for protection, Zhu Zhao replied that was a lot, but he couldn't see anything. From the forest, wolves approached them one by one. Zhu Zhao shouted that now he could see them. He asked Wei Yi what he planned to do. Wolves were animals that liked to cling to their prey. Even if they broke through the encirclement, they would still be continuously harassed. The two had no choice but to eliminate all of them. Zhu Zhao was concerned about Wei Yi's wounds, asking if he was okay. Hearing confirmation that there was no problem, he felt as if a heavy stone had been lifted from his heart. Gripping his shield tightly, he called for Wei Yi to teach them a lesson. Wei Yi had no objection, silently activating the demon body skill. The demon body, thanks to a special affinity harmonizing with humans, provided the user with superior power, increasing 20 attribute points for all 6 stats. Although Wei Yi's weapon had broken, with the attribute increase from the demon body, it certainly wouldn't be difficult to deal with the wolf pack. With the first strike, he took down an attacking wolf. Wei Yi was also extremely surprised by the power he possessed. He happily informed Zhu Zhao that he seemed to have just leveled up. Hearing this, Zhu Zhao laughed loudly, saying he had successfully overcome the state of being unable to level up. He had always said that humans couldn't always be unlucky. He urged him to quickly try a battle after leveling up, saying the difference between level F and E must be like heaven and earth. The level up in this world brought uneven growth. After awakening, each person had 6 attributes: strength, speed, stamina, elemental power, spirit, and affinity. The initial F1 level of the 6 attributes was also called the basic attribute points. Currently, the total basic attribute points of adventurers were all over 200 points. Once an adventurer leveled up, the body would receive an additional 12 points for free distribution. Accumulating 10 levels could break through a tier, with tiers being F, E, D, C, B, A, S. Each time a tier increased, the 6 attribute points would increase by a total of 200 points, equivalent to a qualitative leap. That's why many higher-tier people look down on lower-tier ones. Wei Yi also relied on the demon body to synchronize increased values to supplement basic attribute points. Wei Yi understood the rule. Each time he increased by 1 tier, he would have an additional 120 attribute points of the same level. He hadn't thought that one day the useless person who couldn't level up would immediately have power close to level D. The battle had been going on for a while when Zhu Zhao noticed something unusual. The number of wolves exceeded 20. Compared to normal packs, this number was too many. Even Wei Yi felt a very strange feeling from these wolves. They tried to approach by attacking alternately. Wei Yi exclaimed it wasn't good. They were depleting their energy. Zhu Zhao asked what he meant, confused. At the same time, a howl echoed through the forest. A wolf with silver light appeared. Wei Yi's system identified it as the Wolf King. He immediately told Zhu Zhao to run, saying it was a boss, but their speed couldn't match it. Wei Yi thought that whenever you don't want to encounter comes to you. He was even more unlucky, continuously meeting monsters with terrifyingly high stats. Zhu Zhao shouted loudly that all paths in this direction were blocked by wolves. They should run in another direction. Wei Yi stopped, knowing that even if they wanted to run, this giant wolf wouldn't give them that opportunity. He could only choose to either kill it or severely injure it to gain a ray of hope for survival. He ordered LBO to open attributes. Strength and speed were both essential, so he would allocate all free attribute points to these two categories. Next was planning with Zhuzhou. He would handle dealing with the boss while his friend would help control the remaining wolves. Zhuzhou worriedly said he could handle control, but was Wei Yi sure he wanted to confront the boss? Wei Yi, holding his sword, charged forward saying he just needed to severely injure it, which wouldn't be a problem. Thanks to universal analysis, he could time exactly when the Wolf King attacked a slit under its belly. The belly of monsters was usually the weakest spot, and this was the opportunity to counterattack. The Wolf King saw Wei Yi's intention and switched to emitting silver light, temporarily blinding his opponent. Wei Yi was momentarily blinded by the silver light. He acknowledged that resisting the boss's skill was indeed not to be underestimated. He thought he must quickly leave or he would turn himself into a living target. The LBO system helped him convert information into sound while trying to analyze the silver light but failed. The system continuously issued warnings about detecting a large amount of elemental power gathering ahead. Wei Yi followed the guidance to avoid the Wolf King's attack, which missed its target and created a large crack in the ground. His eyes again seeing the surrounding scene, he could only exclaim that this power was too terrifying. A slashing attack concentrated from elemental power that could almost bypass all defenses. If Wei Yi hadn't dodged at the last minute, he would have likely turned into a pile of kindling like those tree trunks. The system continued to transmit information. The silver light was still being maintained, covering the Wolf King's entire body, with the elemental effects slightly increasing. The next notification, to the right, a large amount of elemental power was concentrating, extremely dangerous. Wei Yi frowned, looking at the opponent. Even the elemental enhancement effect had silver light, truly too comprehensive. He was in a dilemma. With the broken sword in his hand, he absolutely could not directly confront it. Wei Yi regretted that if he had such attack skills, he wouldn't have been so passive. The LBO system kept trying to learn the silver light skill, but the result was still failure. Wei Yi didn't understand that from the beginning, LBO had been trying to learn that skill. Could it learn the boss's skills? Through analysis, Wei Yi realized his idea could help LBO better understand the problem. Although he didn't have many skills before, he had learned quite a bit of knowledge. If skill learning was effective, it could completely change the current situation. Wei Yi didn't give up any opportunity. He ordered LBO to monitor the elemental evolution over time. LBO tried to learn the elemental principle of the silver light skill, discovering that it contained electrical elements and began deeper decoding. Wei Yi guessed this was the true essence of the skill. While still pondering the system notifications, Zhuzhou's figure appeared in his line of sight. His friend used his shield to protect them both, worriedly asking if he was injured. Seeing the wolf pack retreat, he guessed something was wrong. Indeed, it was preparing a major move. Wei Yi apologized for making him worry. Earlier, to better understand the skill, he had approached the boss too much. Fortunately, Zhuzhou arrived in time to help. Moreover, just now he had sensed an elemental power that had been suppressed for so long. Zhuzhou's shout pulled him out of his thoughts. The Wolf King's damage was too high, and his shield could hardly withstand it anymore. The spirit shield Zhuzhou was using, while beneficial, also caused significant harm if broken. He cursed loudly, saying, "Damn it, if this continued, they might fall right here." Following the rules from previous battles, Wei Yi should be the one to leave first. Zhuzhou would stay behind to delay as long as possible. He carefully directed Wei Yi to run east, opposite to where the wolf pack retreated, which would be safer. He would figure out how to escape later. Wei Yi replied that he knew his friend was looking after someone of a lower level. He also recognized that due to the debuff caused by the spirit shield after use, it would create a major obstacle for his retreat. Therefore, if Wei Yi just left, he would definitely regret it for the rest of his life. Moreover, they hadn't reached the point of no return yet. Wei Yi once again opened the system, softly saying if they came together, they must survive and return together. After some time, the LBO system had acquired the silver light skill, and the star map was also unlocked. Once again, Wei Yi regained his determination to advance for the monster. Elemental skills like spirit stones were another attribute that Xiaowu bestowed upon this world. Whether awakened humans or monsters, as long as they had elements, they all had the ability to possess such powers. Elements were divided into 5 types: essence, electricity, nuclear, cloud, and flower, each element having its own characteristics. The higher the elemental compatibility, the greater the chance of mastering skills belonging to that element. To obtain more stable skills, human researchers had tried to understand the principles of skills. After countless experiments with monsters, they still couldn't observe how elements changed. Finally, they could only end in failure. Now Wei Yi relied on LBO's system to recreate elemental skills, and it was a pure elemental skill, even more special. Zhu Zhao, seeing the light emanating around Wei Yi, recognized it as the skill the boss had used. He was even more surprised that Wei Yi could comprehend this skill at such a crucial moment, and it was identical to the boss's. Wei Yi replied that he must have been lucky. The surrounding elements were just compatible. He couldn't tell his friend about the LBO system. Although he had acquired a new skill, the attribute gap between him and the boss remained. Wei Yi still had to rely on LBO's support. He would try to attack its weakness. While Wei Yi was still planning his strategy, Zhuju's spirit shield was broken, putting him in a severely injured state. The system analysis showed Wei Yi that Zhuju's attribute weakening status had increased significantly. Seeing his friend about to say something, Wei Yi interrupted, saying, "Don't say anything, just leave everything to him." He didn't forget to instruct Zhuzhou that if he had the strength, he should try to run as far as possible. In his head, he ordered LBO to predict the time and angle of the attack that would come. He only needed to predict the time and angle to use his small enough force to change his trajectory. From there, he could use the silver light to make them collide and neutralize each other. The Wolf King was no less skilled. It deliberately used Earth to block visibility. However, this method was useless against Lan Bao. Thanks to the system's help in predicting movement direction, Wei Yi managed to wound the Wolf King. Next, the silver light from both of them confronted each other, creating a blinding light. Zhuzhou was amazed, questioning if this was still the Wei Yi he knew. He didn't know when he had become so strong. The battle continued, and Wei Yi began to face difficulties. The elemental force consumption was stronger than he had imagined. Just sending out a few light blades had exhausted him, and with his current strength, he could only barely injure the Wolf King. On the other hand, his recovery speed was far inferior to the Wolf King's. Continuing to consume energy would only be more disadvantageous for him. Wei Yi thought, did you really have to use that move? Around the silver-toothed Wolf King, a large amount of elements gathered. The system immediately issued a warning that it couldn't predict a suitable evasion route. The Wolf King had begun preparing for the final move to decide victory or defeat. He had no other choice. Wei Yi ordered LBO to activate the demon power. Once again, terrifying sounds and gloomy air currents enveloped Wei Yi's body. He clutched his head in explosive pain. Hell invaded his brain, controlled his limbs, deprived his senses, awakened the killing intent, and the final step entered the demonization state. Wei Yi, with evil eyes looking at the target in front of him, said, "Try the feeling of being defeated by your own skill." With just one move, the sword swung out, causing the Wolf King's head to fall to the ground. The Wolf King was defeated in a single technique, with each silver light dispersing around. Zhuzhou stood with his mouth wide open, watching the scene unfold. Just one move had defeated the boss and even destroyed a mountain behind it. He silently wondered what Wei Yi had experienced inside the relic. After the battle, red light streams were still controlling Wei Yi. The system detected that the host's mental state was unstable and forcibly dispelled the demon power. He hadn't expected that in just a moment the side effects would be so strong. If not for LBO's help, he probably wouldn't have been able to control himself. Even universal analysis couldn't explain what this power was. Wei Yi thought that perhaps this ability should be limited in use in the future. Zhuzhou limped over from afar to check on Wei Yi's condition. He smiled brightly, informing his friend that he was fine, just a bit exhausted because the elemental power consumption was too great. Looking at the watch on his wrist and seeing that not much time remained, he urged Zhuzhou to quickly return home. He looked at the Wolf King with regret. Processing materials from the boss would take quite some time, so they had no choice but to leave it behind. Zhuzhou suggested that he stay behind to handle it. After all, his father owned a materials shop, and he had processed monster materials many times. Moreover, he had just recovered his strength. Zhuzhou sat down beside the Wolf King, checking the treasures on the boss's body. Not only were there high-grade spirit stones, but also materials that could be used to craft weapons and equipment. Zhuzhou emphasized that since Wei Yi had defeated the boss, all materials belonged to him. He assessed that he hadn't expected Wei Yi to become so strong in the blink of an eye. It seemed the rest of the journey wouldn't require his help. It was just right that he could stay here and process the materials for him. Seeing the hesitation on Wei Yi's face, he laughed loudly, telling him not to worry, he wouldn't do this work for free. He had heard wolf meat was delicious. At that time, he would eat to his heart's content. Wei Yi shouldn't hog it all to himself. Wei Yi laughed loudly, replying that he really had no choice with him. Zhuzhou, having received this compromise, urged Wei Yi to quickly return home. Xiao, Wei Yi's younger sister, had already begun arguing with the people who came to collect money. The petite girl with her hair tied on both sides of her face was uncompromising, shouting, "What's the rush?" Her brother had said he would return today, and he definitely would. The little girl reproached them, asking if adults like them had no patience. A fierce-looking man took out the contract, cursing that waiting or not waiting didn't matter. The terms in the contract were clearly stated: either pay or get out. He pointed at the spirit stone energy device in the house, shouting that it was because the owner had worked hard to bring it back and had rented it to them, so they should be grateful, yet they dared not pay the rent. Someone else spoke up, guessing that the girl's brother might have died on the way. Anyway, he was no different from trash. He pointed at the girl's grandfather, continuing that there was also a drunk here, truly a family where no one was trustworthy. Xiao angrily stomped on the person's foot, warning that if they continued to badmouth her brother, they would see. Zibai entered from outside, stopping the argument, saying it was already 12 o'clock, time to act. He found an empty chair in the house and sat down. He began threatening them, saying that here, not everyone could use spirit stone energy devices, either pay in full or get out of town. Xiao wasn't afraid of anyone. The little girl stood among the crowd, asking what they wanted to do, saying she would report them for bullying children and the elderly. Zibai laughed loudly, looking forward to her reporting them because in this town they were the law. Lebang put down his wine gourd, rumbling that they couldn't have any peace and quiet. He had been sleeping soundly but woke up because of the noise, saying young people really didn't think at all. Lebang looked at them, asking if they were so anxious. Was the sky about to fall? The crowd, as if hearing a joke, said they were about to be unable to care for their own family, yet they were worrying about the sky. Lebang took out a remote control in his hand, pressing a button, saying it was just a handful of small change. If they wanted it, he would give it to them. The space in the house shook and a robot was transmitted down. Someone mockingly said that Xiao Wu had stripped all robots of their control. Was the old man bringing it out for show? If it couldn't move, it was no different from scrap metal that no one would look at. Zubai interrupted his subordinates, saying he needed it. He hadn't expected to see a GOI series robot here. This series of robots had a sturdy exterior and powerful functions, so the military had previously restricted their circulation. It was a pity that now, due to the extinction of intelligence, it couldn't be started, but it could still be dismantled into excellent materials for equipment refining. The crowd determined that it seemed the old man had some status. Lebang spoke up, saying now that they knew it was good, don't waste words. The GOI series prototype would pay for 100 in rent in advance, which should be more than enough. Xiao disagreed, saying this was his life's work. The little girl urged her grandfather to wait a little longer. Perhaps her brother was about to return. Lebang patted his granddaughter's head, saying that although he was a bit stubborn and nostalgic about the past, he still knew how to distinguish importance and priorities. He understood that Wei Yi was always punctual. Surely the boy must have encountered something. Xiao coldly snorted, saying they were being too lenient with them. Zibai interrupted the two, asking if there was any misunderstanding. He hadn't said this alone would be enough. Although the external materials of this robot were very rare, the raw materials had been pre-manufactured long ago. Considering the cost of disassembly and reprocessing, it didn't actually have much value. Zibai continued, saying the time had already passed 12 o'clock, so they were considered to have violated the contract and had to pay a tenfold penalty in advance, and from now on the rent would double. He calculated that after deducting the value of the robot, they still owed 20 elementary spirit stones. Lebang disagreed, saying he didn't see this written in the contract. Zibai stood in front of Lebang, creating significant pressure, saying that's why he had to come here himself. The old man should best understand that those without power had no right to speak. He gave him 1 day to gather the required amount, best to pray for his grandson's safe return. Otherwise, the only option would be to invite the two of them to become friends with the monsters. They distributed themselves, attaching wires to the robot, struggling to pull it away. Lebang watched the heartbreaking scene, silently apologizing to his friend, saying he had no other choice. Zibai's subordinates loudly cursed, not only failing to collect money, but also having to do heavy work. Thinking of the electronic components that could be sold for money, his heart was somewhat consoled. Xiao came to pull them away from the robot, not allowing him to touch it, clearly stating this wasn't part of the agreement. He angrily pushed the little girl away, shouting that he would take what he wanted and she shouldn't interfere too much. Xiao fell to the ground and coincidentally, the wire connected to the robot also broke, causing it to almost fall right on her. Lebang shouted loudly, telling his granddaughter to be careful. Fortunately, before it collapsed, Wei Yi carried the girl away. Wei Yi apologized to his sister for arriving late while checking her all over to see if she was injured. Xiao cried loudly, saying she wasn't in pain. She just couldn't protect the family well when he wasn't around. Wei Yi praised her, saying she had done very well and didn't need to feel guilty. The rest could be left to her brother. Lebang, standing nearby, sighed with relief, saying how good it was. Zibai was also startled for a moment, muttering that this would make things easier. Pang Ming, a close subordinate of Zibai, mockingly laughed, saying so was the F-level waste. Just right, his family still had an unpaid debt, so he should quickly settle it. Another person unreasonably added that if he knew what was good for him, he should quickly hand over all the spirit stones he had, not making them take action. If not, his situation would soon be worse than his sister's. He was frightened by Wei Yi's fierce gaze, his voice trembling as he asked what he was looking at. He didn't know why he was being controlled by a kid just with a look. First, Wei Yi arranged for his sister to stand aside, away from danger. He began to use universal analysis on them, discovering that they were just E-level, relying on a bit of strength to arbitrarily bully the weak. Wei Yi took out a red bag, saying all the spirit stones they needed were inside. In his mind, he calculated that daring to harm his family, this time it wouldn't end easily. The aggressive one from before stepped forward to receive it, not forgetting to mockingly laugh, saying he was sensible. Trash should act like trash. Wei Yi didn't give him another opportunity to babble, sending a kick straight to his face, helping him bid farewell to two front teeth. Wei Yi enumerated that the punch just now was revenge for Xiao, then continued with another punch. The crowd was stunned and shouted loudly, "Damn it," daring to be disrespectful to them. All of them simultaneously charged forward, wanting to teach Wei Yi a lesson. His quick speed helped him avoid all of them while not forgetting to counterattack. Pang Ming, the most muscular-looking person in the group, still hadn't joined in. He observed and asked how this kid, who was supposed to be the lowest F level, became so strong all of a sudden. Zibai reminded them they had already spent too much time here. He apologized to his boss and picked up his weapon and advanced. He let Wei Yi know not to think that defeating a few small fries made him good. He would teach him what strength really was. Wei Yi waited until he just finished speaking, then used his foot to kick straight into his face, causing his large figure to fall backward. He warned them not to lay hands in his house. Xiao excitedly cheered for her brother to keep it up, but the faces of Le Bang and Zibai became contemplative. Pang Ming wasn't willing to admit defeat. He approached again, praising the speed as not bad, but the strength was just at the level of garbage. If it was just at this level, they could end it here. He began to activate the skill on his body. Wei Yi simultaneously activated the silver light and universal analysis, replying not to jump to conclusions as the debt still wasn't fully paid. This time, both new grudges and old hatred would be settled together. Wei Yi hadn't forgotten his past of being oppressed. Now that he had broken free from chains, he would once again build achievements. The skill Pang Ming used was heavy nuclear armor, causing his entire body to be covered in a layer of armor. He coldly snorted, looking at the broken sword in Wei Yi's hand, asking if this was his strongest move. It really made people laugh their teeth off. He continued to taunt. Zibai fell into thought as his danger intuition had reacted to Wei Yi. Moreover, Pang Ming was a warrior with balanced attribute points who shouldn't have been easily kicked away like that. He was still recalling Wei Yi's attack pattern, thinking it seemed familiar. Xiao, seeing Pang Ming's appearance, worried for her brother. She softly said if he couldn't fight back, they could run away. Pang Ming, inside his armor, was still very confident about its safety. Although he couldn't move while using the skill, his defense was now top-notch. As long as the opponent directly attacked, they would definitely be stunned, and he would take the opportunity to show Wei Yi what pain really was. Wei Yi read his intentions, saying his calculation wasn't bad, but he had no intention of approaching directly. Seeing the glowing sword in his hand, Pang Ming anxiously asked why he wasn't following the normal method. Each distance slash falling on the armor caused him extreme pain. He silently cursed. Damn it, could it be that the armor was ineffective, causing such pain? But he was still confident that such powerful attacks couldn't be used many times. His words were immediately slapped when Wei Yi continued to swing his sword continuously. The LBO system, as usual, learned about the opponent's skills during Wei Yi's battle, quickly discovering the elements. As he had predicted, LBO could indeed analyze and learn the skills of awakened people. Wei Yi continuously attacked, causing the elements to constantly restructure, creating opportunities for LBO to analyze their trajectories. By the time LBO had learned the heavy nuclear armor, Pang Ming had already become frustrated with the ineffective skill. He decided to charge forward himself. Wei Yi, observing the opponent's movement, silently praised the timing, saying he would give him a new experience. The silver light was used to compress elements onto the weapon's surface, thereby significantly enhancing penetration. Wei Yi knew that for him, this would be a fatal blow. Pang Ming fearfully opened his eyes wide, not knowing what to do. Zibai couldn't bear to watch anymore and stepped in himself. Zibai blocked a major strike for his subordinate, loudly saying that was enough. The ridiculous drama ended here. The hand that blocked the attack glowed, and he thought to himself that indeed, the electric elemental damage was truly powerful. Even when separated from the user, the power was still very great. He assessed since when did Wei Yi have these abilities. Seeing Pang Ming about to charge forward again, he, as the boss, stopped him, knowing his people were no match. Wei Yi was also silently reassessing Zibai. His movements were too fast for him to see clearly. Even through universal analysis, he could only grasp a few points in the movement. Zibai frowned, surprisingly asking if the kid was trying to probe something. Then his dangerous eyes looked over, asking Wei Yi what he could probe, whether he could see that he would kill everyone here. Wei Yi hadn't thought that he would react to universal analysis. His ability index also completely exceeded the range Wei Yi could handle. Le Bang sensed the danger, proactively calling his granddaughter to hide behind him. Wei Yi was determined not to spare those who had harmed his family. The system once again connected to demon power. Zibai sensed the change in his aura. Even a danger intuition skill on him issued an alert, generating a powerful amount of fear. Zibai wondered what kind of background this kid had to make even a B-level person like himself cautious, But his intuition was never wrong. He hadn't thought there would be a day when he would be at a disadvantage. Amidst the tense atmosphere, Zhuzhou's call broke the silence. He loudly called for the dog holding the spirit stone to stop. His voice grew louder, shouting that this wasn't for it to eat, to return it. The spirit stone fell from the dog's mouth in front of Zibai, whose eyes immediately moved. Wai Yi, ignoring the animal, happily looked at Zhuzhou, saying how great it was that he had safely exited the misty forest. He complained that if he hadn't encountered the dog on the way, which stole the spirit stone, he would have arrived earlier. Mentioning the spirit stone made him remember. He looked around to see where the dog had left it. Zibai, holding the spirit stone picked up from the dog, asked Zhuzhou where it came from. Zhuzhou, not seeing Wai Yi's displeased expression, cheerfully smiled, saying so it fell here. He continued, saying that mid-grade spirit stones, of course, came from the boss. Then he asked if he should return the spirit stone to Wai Yi. Wai Yi, with a frowning face, told Zibai that this came from a boss called the Silver Fang Wolf King. On their way back, they had encountered an ambush, which led to the delay in paying rent. Pang Ming, not believing his ears, asked if defeating a boss with just 2 people was a joke. Zhuzhou naively replied that it was Wai Yi alone. Zibai fell into contemplation again, thinking his intuition wasn't wrong. If the 2 of them could defeat a boss, then Wai Yi's strength must be at least above sea level. If he fought now and got injured, it would affect other more important plans. Moreover, his spirit shield also needed mid-grade spirit stones to recharge. Zibai handed the contract back to Wai Yi, saying it seemed the kid was lucky to have saved his life. He used the spirit stone to pay Wai Yi back the contract, using high-grade spirit stones to deduct 3 months of rent and other compensation. Wai Yi was surprised, holding the contract in his hand. The demon script contract was written with magic extracted from spirit stones. If violated, it would backlash on the writer, causing serious injury. After handing over the contract, he ordered Pang Ming to pick up the people lying on the ground. Pang Ming reluctantly asked his boss if they were just leaving like that. What about the robot? Zubi asked his subordinate in return if he could carry such a large object by himself. Wai Yi checked the contract again, finding no issues, which made him more worried. What was that guy planning? Shao watched the bad people leave, not forgetting to taunt them to hurry up and leave, you bunch of monkeys. Zibai didn't care, hands in his pockets, thinking he would let them go for a while. Wait until he completed that special plan. By then, there would be many opportunities to deal with him later. Wai Yi watched them leave, thinking they really were leaving. At least this time he had overcome and avoided losing control of the demon power. Shao happily ran to his side, asking when her brother had become so powerful. Wai Yi smiled shyly, saying it was probably just luck. The system could be upgraded now. Yu Zhao placed the pile of materials he had collected from the Wolf King in front of everyone. He called Wai Yi to quickly look at all the materials and meat he had obtained from the Wolf King monster. He added that he would give him all the materials. He just wanted to eat the meat. Wai Yi hadn't thought there would be so much. It turned out to be not just what Zhuzhou carried on him. He suddenly remembered the giant fang of the Silver Fang Wolf King and gave it to Wai Yi, the most valuable material. The system displayed Giant Fang of the Silver Fang Wolf King, level D+. A tooth that not only had the ability to conduct elements but was also an excellent material for crafting weapons. Wai Yi thought that regarding elemental conduction, it would maximize the effect of silver light, and he was just in need of a new weapon. The encounter with Zibai helped him realize he was still lacking in many areas. Apart from the demon power, which had unknown risks when used, he had no way to deal with him. Wai Yi told himself he needed to become stronger to protect everyone in front of him. Zhao ran around the pile of materials, asking brother Zhu Zhao if this meat was edible. Zhu Zhu laughed loudly, describing how when grilled, the smell would be very fragrant, and he would let the little girl try it right away. Lebang also assessed that these were all good materials. He summarily remarked that his grandson had undergone significant changes after this return. Then he skillfully led the conversation, wanted to know what had happened to him. Wai Yi admitted that he had encountered many things, some of which felt unreal when recalled. He thought about perhaps confiding in his grandfather about recent days, but the old man seemed to have seen through everything. He just softly said it seemed he had met Lan Bao. It happened to be the right time for him to tell Wai Yi a few things. Back inside the house, after cleaning everything up, Zhu Zhu took on the role of chef, grilling meat for everyone. Chao selected the first 2 pieces of cooked meat for her brother and grandfather. The doll followed at her feet, wanting to be fed, but was disciplined by the little girl. Zhu Zhu laughed loudly, saying everyone had a portion, no need to fight. Wai Yi, standing far away, praised the fragrant meat, not forgetting to remind his sister to be careful. She bit into large pieces of meat, eating deliciously, puzzled that the more she ate, the sleepier she felt. Wai Yi, having fixed the robot for his grandfather, turned to remind his sister that she had eaten too much. The system analyzed that the meat of the Silver Fang Wolf King was a type of high-quality meat, but eating too much would cause an abnormal state of deep sleep. Bang, holding a meat skewer in one hand and drinking wine with the other, praised it. It had been a long time since he had such a happy and comfortable meal. He had lived half his life without trying anything as delicious as this. Bang concernedly asked if this monster was very difficult to deal with. Wai Yi, sitting beside him, replied that he had gone through a fierce battle, but thanks to Lan Bao's power, he could barely win. But Wai Yi still had to be careful when using this power because Xiao Wu's intervention in this world was stronger than they imagined. He knew that sooner or later it would take notice of this power, which had escaped its control. Wai Yi mentioned that he found out his grandfather had known about Lan Bao all along. He clarified that his current understanding of this system was still vague. Wai Yi asked his grandfather how he should use this power. He wanted to make himself stronger to protect everything he had and find a way to help Lan Bao recover. Wai Yi looked at him earnestly, asking, "Grandpa, do you think we can make this world return to how it was before?" Bang scolded him, saying, "Foolish child. Once the wheel of history has turned, how can it easily stop? Moreover, Xiao Wu didn't completely destroy everything. At least they're still there." He shifted his gaze to the robot high above, murmuring that like this old friend, he and it had worked together for over 20 years. When he met it that year, it was just a simple combat machine. But after going through countless dangers and difficulties together, the old friend had gradually become more human-like. Bang reminisced that the bond between humans and machines had also become an imprint in memory. Although Xiao Wu had taken away all intelligent consciousness, he believed it wasn't get lost. He believed it would reappear in another form. This was its destiny, also the destiny he had pursued all his life. He looked at his grandson sitting beside him, affirming that now he also had a destiny he firmly pursued. He advised Wai Yi to follow what his heart told him. It would guide him in the right direction. Ulbo suddenly sent a notification that it sensed the fluctuation of emotions and was trying to understand that emotion. Wai Yi was surprised by Ulbo's new reaction. He wondered if the dialogue just now had caused resonance in the system. This powerful force was similar to when Lan Bao learned new things. Wai Yi curiously asked his grandfather if he knew what Lan Bao had left behind, such as the so-called world fragments. Bang replied that he had never heard of this, but Lan Bao had mentioned an important notebook left in the old house. It said that when Wai Yi had enough ability, it would show him. He thought now was the time. He told his grandson to go look for it. There would definitely be the answer he was seeking. Wai Yi thought it was indeed time for that too. He should also visit his parents. After receiving power from Lan Bao, Wai Yi trained even more diligently. He began by running with weights. In the case where universal analysis automatically ran, his level had increased to E6. But the higher the level, the higher the required experience. Leveling up in the future would definitely become slower. Therefore, the distribution of free points received needed to be increasingly considered. Wai Yi took the opportunity after training to visit the market to buy a few things. This was a market opened by ordinary people. Whether it was monster materials, medicine, or food, all could be exchanged here as long as he had enough spirit stones. Wai Yi calculated that the way to the old house was still far and had to pass through the misty forest, so he needed to bring enough food and supplies. Incidentally, at the market, he would also buy his sister some of the honey fruit cakes she liked most from Aunt Allen's place. A vendor on the road greeted Wai Yi, asking if he hadn't seen him for a long time. Had he encountered monster trouble? The uncle brought out several dolls, asking if he wanted to buy them. Perhaps they could help drive away monsters, the price being only one elementary spirit stone. The system suddenly displayed that according to the description, this could scare away low-level monsters. The actual effect could only be known by using it. Wai Yi smiled slightly, asking if it was really useful. Just then, a loud shout rang out, "Stop, thief!" Looking at the speed of the person running away, Wai Yi could tell it was an awakened person. In the distance, Aunt Allen was crying loudly, saying if she lost this batch, she wouldn't be able to pay enough rent this month. Wai Yi consoled her, saying he would chase after and get it back for her. The masked person ran for a while, satisfied with the thought of having escaped, casually dropping a honey cake into his mouth. Unexpectedly, from behind came a voice saying, "Stop, return the goods." The masked person smiled, replying that when it came to escaping, he was an expert. After speaking, he opened an umbrella blocking Wai Yi's line of sight, then escaped to another road. Wai Yi silently cursed. Damn it, he was afraid the thief had relied on a grappling hook to escape. He ordered LBO to expand the analysis range. On the other side, the masked person was leisurely eating honey cakes, continuously praising that free food was truly excellent. Today, he would have another economical meal. He checked the remaining items he had stolen today. Unfortunately, they had ownership marks, so they couldn't be stored in the storage chest for now. Seeing that he was about to return to the road, he thought he should be more careful. On Wai Yi's side, LBO detected the designated target. Seeing Wai Yi appear again, the thief was surprised, asking how he got there. Wai Yi looked at the masked person, thinking this time see where you can run to, at which point the thief once again threw out a grappling hook to escape. He easily caught it, saying this old trick wouldn't work anymore. Wei Yu pulled hard on the hook line, telling him to obediently return and apologize to Aunt Allen. Being pulled by him on the grappling hook made the thief unable to control his fall to the ground. The hood fell off, and it turned out to be a girl.